Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Impressions video, and I don't have the game with me so I can't show you what it is, but it's in the title. I'll be talking about Caligula on the PS Vita, and this is an RPG made by some of the original people who worked on the original Persona game. And this is put out by Fudio, who did Lost Dimension recently, probably some other stuff, etc. I think they did the kissing RPG that I talked about previously. Um, they have kind of a reputation for not putting out high quality games, I guess, pretty much everywhere. But in my experience with the games I played by them, they're not none of them have been super great, but a lot of them have been really good to kind of mediocre. And maybe this one falls in towards the higher end of those. But let's talk about this game. First, what is it? Caligula, it's not based on the Roman Emperor Caligula, so unfortunately, that would be an awesome game. But yeah, this Caligula is sort of an interesting story to start with. It starts you out as, you're it looks like when you look at it you think like, oh, another RPG based in a school, this is going to be like a Persona ripoff. Boring. And you're going to think like, oh, it looks like that, but it's really not. The school stuff is there, but you're not in a school. It only appears like it's a school. And I can explain that. Everybody in the game is a high school student. Like everybody in the entire world is a high school student because the world is a virtual world created to be like this kind of, I don't know, happy safe space for like people who have had, like bad experiences in the real world. So like basically they're imported into this virtual world, and in this world everybody's a high school student and everybody is like um, living this kind of like idyllic high school student life. Basically, that's the idea, that everybody will be happy in this kind of world, but in this virtual world, everybody is a high school student. So it's not really like everybody is a high school student and a high school kid, and that's like one of the fun parts of the game. Like there's a lot of interesting things going on because like everyone appears to be a high school student, but nobody is as they appear, which is really an interesting thing. So I'm not going to go into the story. I won't give any spoilers. That's just like the basic setup of the game. You can get that from watching the trailer. Um, but there are interesting parts in the story where you find out people who, like this. Oh my God, this cute girl's like a 40-year-old man. Like that kind of thing. So like you never really know who anybody is in the story until you figure it out. So it's always an interesting kind of thing to figure out like who is who really in the real world as opposed to the virtual world. And it's really a kind of a, one of the fun parts of playing the game is like going through and figuring out who are your party members, who are the people in that you're fighting. Like a lot of some of them are shocking, some of them are like surprise things, and some of them are kind of story twists that happen when you're playing. And it's an interesting thing. It makes the game like, it makes you a little bit more invested in the game than you would be if it was just like high school students fighting to save the world. Um, and even with that, they're not really fighting to save the world. They're kind of working to get out of the world. They're trying to escape, which is, this world that's run by this kind of crazy Vocaloid. Basically, it's like a Vocaloid that's like, with good intentions, has become this kind of horrible thing. So it's a really kind of an interesting setup. But beyond the basic concept of the game, which is really why I was interested in it, but the way the game looks is all right. If you've played any of the other Fruity titles, Lost Dimension especially, it's got a similar vibe in the way it looks. It's a bit more colorful though, so it does feel like if you mixed like the kind of art styles of like something like a Persona with the way they make the characters in Lost Dimension and the way like the kind of things are designed, it's not like Persona at all. Don't go into it expecting that. It's vaguely turn based. It's not even like really that, and it's it's not, it doesn't have, it kind of has social links, but not really. It's hard to really explain all of that. I'll go into it a bit when I talk about the kind of side character thing and how your party members work. But generally, it looks all right. It doesn't look like it all that terrible or anything. And I think like Furyu has a reputation as like kind of like making cheaply made games or something. But I wouldn't say this has that feeling. It doesn't feel bad. The lighting in this video is weird. I'm like, it's just like the light from the window, and it's slightly dimmed halfway through, but clouds going overhead, I guess. So like the right side of my face here is like all dark, Two Face, whatever. But yeah, in this game you get party members. You'll meet people in the world, and like basically the party members are people who have realized that they're in a virtual world, because most people don't realize. And you realize it by being able to see like kind of bugs and things in the world, like people will become half pixelated or something, and you kind of start to realize it. And they've made like this club to escape the virtual world, and your character comes in and joins the club and becomes the leader and all that. And you meet these characters, there's a set group of them, but at first none of them can use any weapons. And like as you progress their stories, they like have these kind of awakenings, and then they can start using weapons. So you'll have more people in the beginning, but some of them can't fight. And then eventually you'll get new people added that you meet later on. And you get this kind of core group of characters that you can use, and they have stories and things. But throughout the game, there's high school students everywhere, and most of them are your enemies, but like a bunch of them are also not enemies. Like they're just normal people that haven't been like taken over to the level that they're enemies, but they're also not part of your group that can see that they're in a virtual world. But you can talk to these people and give them, like become friends with them also. And by doing that, you can get party members into your group that are of different levels. So usually it's not, at first it's not very helpful, and you can't do it right away. But as you get kind of a better, stronger social link with these people, you can add them to your party. And I mean, of course, it takes out people who have an actual story, so it's not exactly the best system. But you can find characters that have special attacks that nobody else has. You can find characters that are like much higher levels, so they'll be kind of beast mode for a little while, where they'll be just doing crazy damage. But it's not usual. Like in my case, it's not exactly useful for the most part, because you're never really in a situation where it's too hard. The battles don't like when you're playing through the amount of time you're building levels and things. You never were really under leveled. Like I never found a spot where I was under leveled, and then and lots of times, like towards the end of the game, I was like just running through mazes. Like I didn't fight anybody. So like even then, like when I got to the end, it wasn't so hard. And I think, but I'll get into why that is, because I could see it being hard for people in the if you don't like figure out how it works. And I could see people quitting this game like really quickly also, because like the battle system is different. It's not something you can easily do without kind of figuring out how it works first. So there is kind of a bit of a learning curve. It's not steep, but it's definitely there, and you definitely have to learn how the system works before you get into like fighting more difficult people in the game, because you'll find out really quickly near the beginning that like you can't just kind of I don't know, like button mash your way through the battles, because you'll get destroyed really quickly. And what happens is that like because you have all these extra characters, there's like there's a bunch of side quests and things with them. Like if you become friendly with some of them, you'll get these kind of side quest things where you can go out and do things in the world and find like hidden bosses and things. But the game itself is like it's really weird, because there's a big chunk of the game that's like after you beat the game that is just like this constant stream of going back to previous dungeons and fighting like a progressively stronger and stronger enemies. But the thing with that is that like it's not like they're new after the game finishes. They're there from the beginning. So like sometimes you'll be going through and you're like level 10 and you'll like come across enemies in the game who are like level 70. And like basically all you can do is run away or avoid those things because they'll kill you in one shot. Um, and what happens is like they're peppered throughout the game. So like, you're going through and you're just like, well, there's all this stuff over here, but obviously can't get there because all the enemies blocking the entrance are like level 60, and you're just like, oh well, I'm never gonna be able to get there. And like, I mean, to give you an example of this, like I finished the game at about level 32 or something, and that was like pretty overpowered for the end. So like when you get there, it's you know, when you think about like, damn, how long would it take me to get to level 70 to be even to get into those areas? Like it's not. I mean, it might be fun, it might be worth it to some people, but to me, I'm not gonna like play the after game for hours and hours and hours and hours, like 30 to 40 extra hours just because it's there. It is there, and there's a bunch of stories to unlock afterwards, but like it's not really worth it to me because it's a bunch of side stories that aren't like directly related to what's happening. Like after you beat the game, you actually the clear data loads you back like right before the end battle. So like it just means you can go back out into the world after you've beaten the game and do more side stories and side quests and find items and things. I don't know how appealing that is to some people. It's not incredibly appealing to me, but it's there. So like if you think like I just want to keep playing this game because I love the battle system or whatever, and I could see people getting into it that way, and just like playing and playing after it's finished. That's possible. You could get like a ton of time out of this game, but like I think for the most part you're going to get maybe 30 hours to beat the main story and like do it that way. That's kind of how it worked for me. I think I finished the game in just under 30 hours. It wasn't that long, and I mean I could see people doing it earlier because like um towards the beginning of the game, like I didn't avoid battles all that much. Like I just fought everything, and it made me like kind of overpowered. And I would suggest actually that you try to avoid battles as much as possible in this game, not because they're bad or anything, but because like you'll just gain experience so quickly. And the game actually does a kind of like a rubber banding for your other characters, where it doesn't level them up if you don't use them, but like when you do use characters that are levels below you, they get like bonus experience. So you'll find that like towards the end, like if you once you get like a kind of solid group of characters that you like to use, you've got good combos going on, you probably use those characters the rest of the game. But they'll all eventually be just about the same level or the same level because there's this kind of bonus experience, and it's a lot of bonus experience. Like you get bonus experience depending on like how well you battle, how good your combos connect, and like if you can beat an enemy the first round of battle, you'll get double experience, which is really helpful in a lot of cases. But like in the case of a character that's a below level, you're getting double experience always. So like for example, like if you're the main character, you're going to get 200 experience. But if you're level 30 and you're getting 200 experience, like in the character below you is level 29, they're going to get 400, like pretty much 400 or more, because they're for no other reason beyond that they're just a lower level than you. So it's helpful because you can level up characters that you haven't used in a long time. And there are parts in the game where some characters you can't use anymore for like short periods of time. So you'll suddenly be stuck with characters that like you hadn't been using maybe. So it's helpful. It's helpful for that because like those characters can level up really quickly, and it makes the game like a little bit more manageable than like thinking like, oh, I can never use these new characters because it's going to take forever to grind them. And it really doesn't, because of the kind of experience rubber banding thing that they got going on. So what else did I want to talk about here? The battle system I haven't talked about, which is like one of the kind of unique things about this game. Like I said, it's turn based kind of, but not really. It's turn based on a timeline. So what you do basically is your max party amount is 4 people, and the 4 people in the party have certain attacks they can do depending on who you've picked for your party and what kind of style you're working for. But characters have like different types of attacks they can do. And basically what you'll do is you'll take one character and you'll select three up to three moves. You don't have to do three every time, but up to three moves in on the timeline. And you can place them on the timeline by sliding them along to change when in the timeline they occur and when the turn will end. And then basically you have 4 people to do this for. So basically what you're trying to do for your battles is match up moves together with other moves and the timing of them to create combos. And like for example, you'll get a combo that launches somebody. So like you can get like an uppercut or something that will, or like a hammer hit that will blast somebody up into the air. And then you'll have somebody else at the exact timing do a move that's like an air counter. So like the enemy will get shot up in the air, and then like someone will turn around and like shoot a gun at them into the air, and it does bonus damage because they're kind of prone. So, and then like at another timing after after the enemy falls to the ground, you can do another attack that's like a ground pound. So like it'll be like someone will jump up into the air with a giant sword and smash them on the ground. It's cool when you get the timing down and you figure out which moves go together. And you'll find that like there's lots of status effects you can put on that way. Like counter attacks with status effects that will like lower the enemy's speed or lower their defense or their attack power. And you'll find that like once you get the kind of idea of like some good combos going on, you can kind of roll through stuff. You'll just blast through things where like sometimes you'll get to a boss and you'll be like, you get the timing of everything just right, and you'll just beat the boss in one turn. And like that's more of like the fun of the battle system, because it's not like it's really actiony, because like when you're on the timeline you get kind of a visualization of what's gonna happen in the timeline, but it only goes based on like 100% success, which you don't have, and it doesn't really take into effect like kind of things that might happen. So for example, like if an enemy is attacking you and you in the timeline it'll show like, oh, you knocked him up in the air and then the other guy hits him and then he gets smashed on the ground, like it'll show that because it's 100% success rate. But sometimes you'll go in and like the enemy will be attacking or something, and it'll knock somebody out of their combo. It'll like stun them with an attack or something, and then like the combo won't work anymore. Or the enemy will be in the wrong place, like it'll move, it'll run to a different part of the screen, and then like somebody will miss their hit in the combo and it'll screw up the whole thing. So it does take a bit of or just like you get the thing where you miss the hit percentage, like even if even at 97% you have a chance to miss. So sometimes you'll just miss and it'll screw up your combos. So like I said, sometimes you can get to a boss and you'll just get there and everything will come together perfectly, and you'll just get like this massive combo that does like 100,000 points of damage against a boss that needs like 20,000 points to die. But in other times you'll get there and like none of your combos will string. The boss will do something that screws up your entire timeline, and then like you're doing what should have been 100,000 points of damage will be like 2,000, and then like you have to scramble to get back into a kind of timing where everybody is back on the same page. So it's an interesting battle system, and I think like a lot of the fun of it is figuring out the combos and getting your timing perfect. So Caligula does kind of offer a lot of interesting stuff going on. But like I said, if you can't figure out the combo system and the timeline, you're not going to get far. You're going to get to like maybe the first boss, and then you're just going to be like, oh, well, that was an ass whooping. And then you're gonna just, if you can't figure it out, if you can't figure out the battle system, you're gonna be horribly lost in this game. You're gonna always be doing minimum damage, and you're always gonna get killed by anything that's stronger than you. Like, potentially, I guess you could just grind like crazy and get through even the toughest bosses without figuring out the battle system. But like, the game time to finish would probably be like um 90 hours, I guess. I don't even know, because like getting the combos down is really the main part of the battle system. So maybe that's all I want to say about Caligula. I don't think I missed much that I want to talk about. um Main things: the battle system I talked about, the characters, the way the world works, the kind of idea of the game, a little bit about Furdu, I guess. I don't know. That's probably it. Oh, I guess I should talk about the music because it's kind of a big part of the game. It does an interesting thing where like each stage has its own battle music and stage music, and they're the same but not. And let me explain that. When you're in the stage, it plays this kind of background music that is um, it's doesn't have vocals. But when you get into the battle, the the music seamlessly changes to battle music, which is the same as the background music but with vocals. So it changes like the kind of tempo of the things, even though like one is instrumental and one is not. It's the only difference. It does feel like a marked difference, and the songs are kind of what you'd expect. I guess they're not really like the type of music I like, but they're well produced, they're well put together, I guess, and they kind of fit the stages well. So I can't really complain about it. It's just like like Persona, really. Like if I'm not like a huge fan of Persona music, but like it's there and it's not bad. It's not annoying to me. So like I feel like it must be well put together. Um, and this game also has that. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Persona stuff, but like it's probably it's actually made by real like musical artists, I guess, and that was like kind of a big point for the game. So I don't know. It's overall like it's a pretty good game actually. I don't think it's like gonna blow anybody away, but I think like if you like interesting RPGs and you like games that are not kind of your standard, like turn-based battle system, or even like a standard action battle system. It's kind of a hybrid with a timeline. It's weird to explain. Um, it's interesting. So like at least it's doing things that are new and kind of a little bit more interesting than your standard kind of um, basic RPG. And like a lot of the story is interesting too. Like when you talk to characters, finding out things about the characters is interesting. They're not all likable. I mean, you're probably not gonna like all of them, but you will get a pretty solid base of stories going on, and the main story is like enough to keep your interest, I think. So overall, it's a pretty good game. I'd probably recommend it, but not to everybody. Maybe to people who are more interested in kind of learning the battle system. And I mean, because it's not really for people who are like into a visual novel kind of storytelling. It's not really like that. It's not like incredibly deep storytelling, but there is relatively good story elements. But like if you like the kind of battle system that sounds interesting to you, you should probably pick up the game, because it is fun to play just for that. And it's kind of all right in small bursts. Like you can play it for just a short time, run through some parts of a dungeon, and then come back to it in a minute and go back to doing more battles, or finding more things in the dungeons. So overall it's pretty good game. I would say pick it up. That's about it. So I will see you guys next time.